Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video I'm going to be looking at those top transfers that you should be targeting for your Game Week 24 teams. So if you are new around here, make sure you do consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoy what you're watching, please do consider hitting that like button on the video. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so first up, we are going to be looking at Chelsea's Joao Felix, finally returning off the back of that ridiculous ban against Fulham and playing a very significant part in Chelsea's 1-1 draw against West Ham. Now, to remind ourselves about Joao Felix, because it has been a while since he has been playing for Chelsea. 7.5 million forward. That's the big thing we need to remember right now, is that he is a forward, not a midfielder. And the way he's been playing in this Chelsea team, he does very much flitter between being a number 9 and a number 10/number 8 in this team. Now, he's only played 148 minutes for Chelsea so far. But looking at the underlying stats here that you can see on your screen, we do need to take that with a pinch of salt when we are looking at these fantastic underlying stats. They are based on per 90, but he's only played 148 minutes. So expected goals per 90, 0.87. We saw that in the game against West Ham, multiple chances. And although he didn't have any necessary clear-cut chances against Fulham, he was having plenty of shots in that game from outside the box. Expected assists per 90, 0.21 as well. As I mentioned with Joao Felix, I do think we are going to get a player that is much more of a well-rounded asset, not just a goal threat, but also a chance creator in this Chelsea team. And we also mentioned about the shots per 90 at 5.47 per 90. And he's actually had 6 shots in the box out of the 9 total in the 148 minutes played. And also 2 big chances. So really, really solid underlying stats for a player like Joao Felix, who is naturally really lowly owned right now, because naturally no one's really been buying him off the back of the suspension that he's come off into. Now, Chelsea as a team offer a really interesting proposition for FPL managers. Of course, we are getting into a situation right now where blank game weeks, double game weeks, maybe even a triple, if we were to believe some sort of rumour, they are going to cause havoc for our team going forward. So sometimes having players in teams that have stability is sometimes a wise move for your teams. And Chelsea are one of the few teams that tick that box. They have a guaranteed fixture in Game Week 25, which is going to be a blank for numerous teams, away against Spurs. And we also know that Game Week 28 is going to be a large blank game week for many teams. But it is confirmed that Chelsea's fixture is going to happen against Everton at home. So although Chelsea don't have any double game weeks lined up, they don't have any blanks either. And I think holding a Chelsea asset, whether you're a Kepa owner, is a wise move going through this period, as it gives you just that little bit of stability in your team. Whereas in other parts of your team, you can look to jump off and jump on certain players that have their double game weeks. Now, again, looking at Chelsea as a whole, they currently have the 8th best expected goals per 90 since the World Cup. So we need to remember that when we are buying an attacking asset like Joao Felix at 7.5 million, we're not buying a player who is operating in a team right now that are fully clicking. 8th best since the World Cup for a team that we would consider a top 4 or top 5 team just really isn't good enough. And that's the one question mark I have right now about Joao Felix at 7.5 million is, one, is he going to get the chances created for him to be a goal threat? 2, are Chelsea as a team going to be clicking? We saw that against Fulham. We've seen it against West Ham recently, that they really do start to run out of steam after a certain period of time. And thirdly, are there simply better options available to us? An example of that is someone like Iheanacho. Now, as I mentioned, Chelsea offer stability with their fixtures. Iheanacho is the complete opposite. Fantastic fixture in Game Week 24 for Iheanacho, followed by a blank in Game Week 25, great fixture in Game Week 26, and then a double Game Week 27, with then a likely blank in Game Week 28. So it's a very, very difficult one right now for a lot of FPL managers, depending on what direction they want to go in. I think naturally we are all going to be very tempted to go towards the players that have those double game weeks, like Ivan Toney, for example, capitalise on the additional expected minutes that we are naturally going to get. But I think if you're sat there right now in a position where you're not really at a rank you want and you want a real differential in your team, I think someone like Joao Felix is going to play every minute for Chelsea. I really don't think they're going to rotate him because he is by far and away their best player from an eye test perspective. And the underlying stats, even though the data size is small, is looking really, really promising. And I think if I was wildcarding right now and building a team where I wanted a few punts here and there, I think Joao Felix will make it into my team. And he'd be the only attacking Chelsea player that I would consider in my team. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'd be really interested to know whether Joao Felix against a managerless Southampton is your Game Week 24 transfer or not. Right, guys, next up, we're going to be looking at one of the most informed teams over the last 2 game weeks. And that, of course, is going to be Brendan Rodgers' Leicester. It's been an absolute rollercoaster season so far for Leicester. They put in some fantastic performances here and there. Then Danny Ward goes on a 4 or 5 clean sheet run. Now they're actually starting to score goals. And Brendan Rodgers has finally discovered that he has Iheanacho in his squad. It's only taken about 20 odd game weeks, but finally he has had back-to-back starts in a Leicester shirt. And lo and behold, attacking returns have come with it. We all knew it, that Iheanacho offers fantastic attacking potential. And from an FPL perspective, an absolute FPL gem, as long as his minutes are starting to show. Now, looking at Iheanacho's minutes over the last 2 game weeks, he has had 66 minutes in Game Week 22 and 76 minutes in Game Week 23. And we have seen him score in Game Week 23, in Game Week 22, alongside numerous assists. And we can see on the screen here, based on his expected goals per 90 and expected assists per 90 post-World Cup, he is right up there with some of the best forwards in the game right now. And importantly, offering, similar to what I mentioned about Joao Felix, a really well-rounded underlying stats complex, basically. 0.64 expected goals per 90 is ridiculous. Only the likes of Haaland is beating him in that department. And expected assists per 90 at 0.58. We discussed this. Iheanacho, a very rare breed of a forward where he is as good scoring his chances as much as creating them. And almost a similar ilk to Harry Kane in some sense, in the way that he's able to pick up the ball and create those chances for the rest of his team. But that doesn't mean that he's not getting the chances himself. 1.22 big chances per 90 since the World Cup and 9.98 expected FPL points. This right now is the informed forward, even though we are looking at such a small sample size. But sometimes when we are looking at those purple patches for players, we just need to sometimes jump early doors on a certain player. And Iheanacho feels like he could be that player. Now, to quickly touch on Maddison, because again, he is somebody that has been very, very different to Iheanacho. We know that when Maddison is fit, this man is the talisman and plays every single minute for Leicester. And if it wasn't for this medium-term injury that he has been suffering with, that has taken him out of the World Cup, I think we would have had Maddison in all of our teams, because he's been one of the most in-form midfielders in FPL for the last 18 months. Now, he's currently 3rd best for FPL points per 90 of all midfielders. Only Mahrez and Foden top him in that department. And it's worth noting as well, what I love about James Maddison is sometimes with players, you don't want to bring them in because the fixture list coming up is very, very difficult. But I think historically what we've seen with James Maddison and with the Leicester attack is that they can score against any team. Maddison already this season scored against Arsenal, twice against Spurs in the home and away fixtures, even against a very, very tight Brentford team. And I do think with Maddison, fixtures, even though they are very difficult coming up for Leicester with United away, Arsenal at home, Southampton away and Chelsea at home, he is one of those rare players that is very much deemed fixture-proof, a talisman in this side. And it's no surprise that since Brendan Rodgers has been able to select these 2 players in their team, they have now scored 8 goals in 2 league matches. And although I don't necessarily think Leicester are going to be winning many games over the coming period, I do think they're going to be causing massive problems for the teams that they have coming up. The likes of Man United still without Casemiro and Eriksen in the team. Arsenal, who now have to juggle European League football, could that be a tricky game where they may actually take that eye off the ball against a Leicester team? And Southampton, we know that could be an absolute goal fest in that game. So to kind of conclude my thoughts right now on the Leicester assets, naturally, with the fixtures coming up, and it's worth noting there is a potential blank game week 28 for them against Brentford, it isn't the right entry point right now from a logical perspective in FPL. For Iheanacho at 6.1 million, my problem is, even though he's posting unbelievable underlying numbers, he's still coming off early. 66 minutes in game week 22, 75 in game week 23. We're still not seeing those full 90 minutes from him. And until he actually starts completing full matches, I don't feel like 60 minutes, 65 minutes of Iheanacho is worth me making a sideways move to him. And therefore, I don't think I can necessarily recommend Iheanacho as we speak into your teams. I think James Maddison's different. Of course, it comes down to the other options available. Very hard for me to make a selling point for James Maddison when Bukayo Saka is slightly more expensive and has the double still to come up and negotiates through the blank game weeks that we have discussed. But if you are looking for a differential right now, a player that is fixture proof, some of the best underlying stats for midfielders, I really think James Maddison is a set and forget player in your team over the long term if you can negotiate yourself through that blank game week 28. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Are you planning on bringing in any Leicester players? I think that they are still going to be scoring goals over this tricky fixture period. And Maddison is the one if you can squeeze him into your teams. Right, we're going from a dynamic duo to a very different pair of players. Now, I can't believe I'm in a world right now where I'm discussing to you guys whether you should be buying James Tarkowski or Max Kilman of Wolves, but yet here we are. Now, it's worth saying why these two are on the screen right now, because you're probably wondering how we have gone from a world of Maddison and Iheanacho to these two on our screens. But it is, of course, because of the fixture announcements that we have seen with the doubles and the blank game weeks. Now, first up, Everton have that double game week in 25 where other teams do blank. Now, not the best double with Aston Villa and Arsenal away, but before that in game week 24, they're at home against Leeds. And at the time of recording, yes, they've just come off the back of a loss against Liverpool. And it's worth noting the underlying stats on your screen here don't take into account that Liverpool game that they just have had. But after the double game week 25, they're away against Nottingham Forest, at home against Brentford, and they have a guaranteed fixture in game week 28, even though it is against Chelsea. I really do think that game week 28 is a time where we just want to have bodies on the ground, really, and you just want to get some numbers out there. Now, of course, game week 28 could be a time where managers want to use their free hit, but I do think having these options available to you just gives you that flexibility with your chips going forward to think to yourself, well, I already have someone in game week 28, so I don't have to use my free hit if I don't want to in that massive blank. Now, in Wolves' example, their fixtures are still quite good. Game week 24 is at home against Bournemouth. Then they have the double away against both Fulham and Liverpool. I would say quite a tricky defensive double game week. Then at home against Spurs and away against Newcastle. But whereas Everton's game is guaranteed to be on in game week 28, Wolves' still isn't clear. It is going to be based off the FA Cup results, so we will know in future weeks. But for now, it is still uncertain whether blank game week 28 will be a fixture for Wolves or not. So it is just worth noting that. But in terms of buying players for this game week, I think both offer fantastic value. And I would argue maybe that Wolves' Kilman has the slight edge this game week, as you can see on our predicted points, with 4.1 projected points compared to Tarkowski's 3.4. When we're looking at a longer range, game week 24 to game week 27, Kilman 14.7, but Tarkowski only just behind on 14.3. Now, when it comes down to minutes for players, these two, I think they're as nailed as they come. Kilman's played every single minute for Wolves, and Tarkowski is going to be playing every minute for Everton. I'll be shocked if Sean Dyche drops a man that he has fallen back onto many times in his Burnley days. And Tarkowski, I think, has been a good influence in this Everton team since Sean Dyche has taken over. Now, looking at their attacking threat, we're not really getting too much here, and it is worth noting that. I know Tarkowski scored the winner against Arsenal, but looking at the underlying stats, expected goals per 90, 0.07, and Kilman at 0.03. I would be lying to you guys if I said you're signing a goal-scoring centre-back that's going to score each and every week. Tarkowski probably does edge it from an attacking perspective, but look, I can't tell you that you're signing a guy that's going to get clean sheets and goals every single week. And you can see that as well, the expected clean sheets of the teams themselves. Wolves are currently averaging per 90 minutes 0.26 expected clean sheets. So basically 1 in 4 games they keep a clean sheet, compared to Tarkowski, which is basically identical. So they're operating at the same defensive numbers right now. And the bonus points as well, very, very similar. Tarkowski just edging Kilman. So, guys, this is the way I'm viewing it right now. I think Tarkowski and Kilman are fantastic options for your Game Week 24 transfers if you are considering them. I think I would prioritise Tarkowski just because we know that he has got that guaranteed fixture in Game Week 28 and that decent double as well in Game Week 25. But Kilman, if you want to go that direction, maybe you already have someone like Maddison and you're hoping that he does return to injury. Kilman at Wolves is still a fantastic alternative. I do think the fixtures after the double are tricky, but I don't think Wolves are necessarily in a terrible place right now. And I think they are going to give tough opposition to any of these fixtures coming up. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. To be really interested to know if any of these players are up to debate for Game Week 24, or whether you are considering doing what a lot of managers are, enrolling their free transfers in Game Week 24. So guys, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you did like it, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and dropping a like on the video on your way out. And we will see you in the next video. Take care. Cheers.